Just make sure the stream is up and running here. It looks like we are good to go. No music this morning, just getting to it right away. Again, I will be off on Tuesdays and Fridays, most likely going forward. We do not have a lot on the economic calendar today. It's just a bunch of Fed speak, leading index. That's basically it. We got data out of China over the weekend, but who gives a fuck? It's all a lie. The big beautiful bill is looking to get passed. It got passed out of committee in the middle of the morning. I don't know if that was last night or this morning technically, but I think they're going to pass that at least through the House this week, and then it'll be sent over to the Senate. That's very exciting. We've got stablecoin legislation and Bitcoin legislation that could be passing very soon, at least before August. We have Moody's. Nobody gives a fuck about Moody's. We'll talk about that for a second. We've got Texas having their final vote for Bitcoin treasury this week. Might have something out of Arizona too. We've got MetaPlanet up 7% in pre-market. Or I'm sorry, up 9.63% from last night here. It looks like in Japan. So, and then we have, I was hoping Simler Scientific, SMLR, that went up almost 30% on Friday, would be down heavy today. It was briefly a little bit down 10%. Now it is only down 1.74%. So there ain't going to be a lot of dippity dip to be buying. Bitcoin is looking beautiful. We'll talk about that in a second. I did update my portfolio. I want to speak to that real quick. So this is again is a little over 5 years worth of time frame now. Portfolio balance is updated to 4.261 million. That is 630,000 almost higher than it was 2 weeks ago. So getting back to that range that I was looking for. Still shooting for 12 million for a target. Hopefully going to surpass that this year. I talked about my trades in here, and again, I showed the portfolio allocation. As you can see, Mara's still at the top. I will be trimming more and more of that as we go higher. I do think miners are going to do well with Q2 earnings because I think Bitcoin's price is going to be a lot higher, and it's going to make them look a lot better. And I will be unloading some in the start of Q3 for Q2 earnings, and maybe a little bit before that because, again, Mara's grown a lot in a short period of time for me. CleanSpark still up there, but MetaPlanet, I wouldn't be surprised to see that passing CleanSpark and catching up tomorrow this week. Again, up almost 10% in pre-market, probably up 50 something $1,000 already today, just from that position. And Tesla, I'm probably going to add this morning. Tesla's down about 3.7%. Probably going to throw like a quick 15,000 at it. I've got roughly 100,000 in cash right now. Simler Scientific, I don't think there's much dip for me to buy here, so I'll probably just enjoy that ride. Wouldn't be surprised to see that surpass Tesla and Simler and MetaPlanet to work their way near the top of this list. ArcG is suffered quite a bit. I'm not looking to add to that right now, though. It's really more about maybe adding to Tesla, not TSLL, the 2X, but just regular Tesla for now, and letting a lot of the rest of these ride. Again, my cash position, it says it's 3% here. It's about $100,000. It's going to be a little bit less after I buy maybe 15K of Tesla this morning. But the big things that were really winners for me, again, I think the moving out of the Tesla 2X was nice because, again, it's down almost 4% in pre-market. That would have been 8%, including the TSLL. So I didn't have that problem. Had 100,000 in cash, able to buy that dip. I think that was a smart move from last week. Also, MetaPlanet, again, being up 10% in pre-market after being up 7% on Friday. This one is a really good move. We'll talk more about why I like MetaPlanet so much. I said also feeling pretty smart about getting out of my. Oh no, that was that part. But really feeling good about getting out of a lot of the MSTX 2X play, which today would be down about 2.6%, and last week closed only up 1.4%. So really very much underperformed the 30% I made in a day on Simler Scientific, technically 28.74 or something like that. And then the MetaPlanet, which was up, numerous days in a row and is up almost 10% today. So I think that was a really smart move getting out of that 2X for MicroStrategy and then moving into these other Bitcoin treasury plays. I think Bitcoin treasuries are going to play a huge part in the markets in the weeks and months and quarters ahead. And very excited about that. But I'm also kind of glad that I found some safety with Tesla where I'm not leveraged on everything in my portfolio. Got a $500,000 that's not at 2X sitting in Tesla. I've got some ARGT. I think right now I'm sitting at like 28, 30,000 on that. And again, 100,000 in cash, and just slowly starting to delever from the things that don't have as much asymmetric upside versus downside risk. So I'm feeling pretty good about all of that in my positioning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning from Taiwan. Wow, look at how large SMLR and MT PLF is. Yeah, right now, again, including this morning, I would guess these things are sitting at roughly $800,000. 22% positioning, but probably over that in the portfolio. So just at a quick glance here in my main account, they're already over $800,000. So probably including for treasuries, it's probably over $1 million, including MicroStrategy and everything else. So not a bad position to be in. I do want to jump real quickly. We have Zervos rating agency talking about how Moody's is kind of worthless and shouldn't be rating companies. I wanted to go over that real quick, and then we're going to jump right into U.S. economic data, Bitcoin, Tesla, the whole 9 yards. Cool. What do I think of Cool? I don't really. It's a position I don't have. Cooler. I think it's American-based. I haven't looked into it as much. It's already running at a NAV premium of 4.912. I believe the stock price has done pretty good. Let me see here. Stock price. What is this? Is this the Bitcoin price? Yeah, no, that's not their stock price. Where's their stock price? Where's their stock price? Does it show their stock price? Do I see their stock price? Cooler return. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what their stock price is off the top of my head. I don't. This is a market cap of 0.36 billion. I remember looking at the fundamentals behind it. I wasn't really as interested in it. They don't appear to be buying as aggressively either. It's like a Simler Scientific. And again, I listened to the CEO of Simler. I did some posting about it, what I liked. And then also MetaPlanet is just an easy one in my opinion. We can go over both of those in a little bit. Let's watch this video, though, and then get to U.S. economic data.
I want to just get this party going. Your word of the day today is emotional. It seems like investors are very emotional about yields going above 5%.
Yes, they are.
What do you make of all this, the Moody's downgrade and the reaction?
I don't make a lot of it, Frank. I think it's actually completely irrelevant, to be honest with you. And it was irrelevant largely in 2011 or any other time one of these ratings.
Yeah, keep in mind, Moody's credit rating agency actually had Lehman Brothers at XXX credit right before the company imploded and went bankrupt and started the Great Financial Crisis. At least, shouldn't say started, but really, escalated the Great Financial Crisis. So these credit agencies are pretty much worthless, very politically biased, leaning towards the left, just like the Fed and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Rating agencies has come out with a call. I mean, rating agencies should be looking.
And just to be clear, one of the only triple rated A-rated countries in the world right now is Canada, which is higher than the United States, even though they haven't even put forth a budget. They just said, fuck the budget, money printer go burr, and yet they have a higher credit rating than us, even though their manufacturing has fallen to be smaller than that of the country of Ireland, which is a fraction of the size. They have a better credit rating than us. So really complete bullshit.
Looking at company balance sheets, not country balance sheets. They're just not really equipped to do that.
For a movie.
The U.S. prints its own currency like many other countries, and the idea of default risk is just a really silly idea, to be honest with you. But look, people will focus on it for a little while. It'll be fleeting, and we'll be off to more important things like the budget bill, which, as you mentioned, is probably the biggest story this week and got out of committee. I think the market will focus on that in a positive way. And, of course, the fact that we're back to unchanged or even up on the year in the S&P, bond yields largely unchanged. And the big story is currencies, which is we're about 10% weaker in the dollar. And I think that story is very supportive for U.S. risk assets going forward into the summer.
Let's go back to the tax bill. We've had a number of trade groups come on our air and tell us how important this tax bill is for job creation.
Tax bill is going to be huge.
Also, just for the president's, momentum, it seems to be very important.
Also, think about this. How are people going to react if we get this thing through the House and then they can start looking, like I've been saying for months, start looking towards the future where we have a lower tax environment, where the corporate tax stuff is passed, where we've actually lowered it by another 5%, where we're literally one of the lowest corporate tax rates on the planet out of any country that exists. While other European nations are increasing taxes, we're lowering them. The investment dollars flowing into the United States are going to be very strong. Am I still in Tesla? Yes, I do post, again, all of that stuff right up here. And you can see that I'm in Tesla. I was in TSLL. I'm not in TSLL, really. I might have a little bit, some straggler, but really it's just Tesla right now. I guess I have 2% in TSLL. So a total of 12% of my portfolio is in Tesla, with 2% in TSLL and 10% in Tesla. So yeah, I am.
Important as well. The expectation is going to go to the floor for a House vote later this week. How important is that House vote passing and moving on to the Senate?
They have a really good incentive to pass it, guys, because Mike Johnson is not going to allow them to be able to go on vacation for Memorial Day weekend. And if there's anything, I know it sounds fucking retarded. I know it sounds retarded that we can't get a bill passed, and that we're finally going to see a bill passed because the Congress people want their holiday weekend. But as retarded as that sounds, that is how it works. And so they don't want to work the weekend, especially a holiday weekend, and they will pass the bill. So I expect that to go through. We'll be seeing that soon enough.
For the market and investor sentiment.
And this is the thing that people don't realize when they think about these congressional things. They're like, oh, there's no way they're going to get it through, blah, 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 blah. Speaker Johnson can't get it done. People, especially in Congress, are very self-interested, and they love themselves, and they appreciate what happens to them. And so these bills will get passed. They'll get passed just because, if nothing else, they'll use things like holidays to force people's hands.
I think it's critical that it got out of committee. It was looking a little dicey, and I think the fiscal side of the U.S. equation just needs to be defined so that businesses can operate and understand what the tax environment is, and consumers to some extent, Frank. So I think it's a big deal. I think the dereg, I think the fiscal side are all in the background positive. And then we come back from a week where the president just inked trillions in additional deals. The investment equation in the U.S., which is strong, just got a lot stronger. And that's just a positive story all around for the U.S. economy. We've been a bit of a lone voice out here since early April, trying to sort of push people back away from the abyss and allowing their emotions to get into their trading and their investing decisions, talking about why this trade story was not as big a deal as everybody had made it out to be. And I think...
1 second. I do want to grab that real quick. So we got the number of Bitcoin purchase. So we have over 1,000 that was purchased, guys, by MetaPlanet. And then we got 7,390, it looks like, from MicroStrategy. I don't know what to say. We only create 450 Bitcoin a day. If you do the quick math on that, that means that we've actually consumed 140% or something more than what we actually generate in a week. And that's just from these two treasury companies and in this entire world. And when you look at miners that have simply stopped, they've simply stopped selling. They've simply stopped selling. And so when you look at that kind of stuff, it's crazy. It really is. Oh, I don't want to put that out there. Let me just do this. Just retweet it. Thank you for the heads up on that. But yeah, so it's really crazy, guys, that we're consuming, that two companies are consuming, 150% or 140% more than the Bitcoin that were actually generated for the week. And then you have ETFs, and then you have everything else. It's just kind of fucking nuts. Largely speaking, I feel pretty vindicated by that.
So, David, just for the audience's edification, you're very pro-Trump. You're pro the administration, a lot of their initiatives.
Yeah.
I would say, Frank, I look at things very much in a cold and calculated way. Look at it how it matters to your portfolio. I won't go through the rest of this. He's basically saying he's not political and that he's focused on making money. And I agree, he is that. He's a good dude. All right, so real quickly, let's go through all of it. So let's talk about the big beautiful bill. So the House Budget Committee, President Trump has a new study reveals short and long-term economic impacts from the bill. So they're saying higher investment. They believe that there's going to be higher investment in the United States, short-term impact within the next 4 years of 9.9 to 14.9%. So again, that's a nice shot in the arm. We've got 4.5% to 5.5% higher GDP. That's pretty huge. We've got 6.6 to 7.4 million full-time equivalent jobs saved and or created. That's pretty huge.
We have, for long-term impact, a four-year plus and beyond, we have higher investment of 4.9 to 7.5%, higher GDP of 2.8 to 3.5%, again, higher than what we would expect. So real huge jolt over the short term, and then, again, lesser impact over the long, but still very positive. 4.2 million more full-time equivalent jobs saved over the longer term, 4 years and beyond. 5,900 to 11,100 and higher wages per worker. That's pretty huge. 7,600 to 12,600 higher take-home pay for typical family with 2 children, and 100 billion plus of investment, 1+ million of jobs, and hundreds or thousands of new homes to support workforce growth on distressed communities. So there's going to be a lot of money printing going on with this shit. And that's good. That's actually good because we do need that. We need that. We're trying to cut back on expenses. We're trying to lock in things with Doge. We'll see how successful that is within the first year of his presidency. I don't know that that's going to be something that's easily done. I think what they needed to do was everything that Trump is doing right now to create growth, to solidify relationships and set standards for tariffs and how we're going to interact with our friends and foes going forward. And then also, again, letting people know that fraud and waste and abuse are not acceptable anymore in this country. And then I think after we've boosted the economy, done all these things, kept energy prices down, see pro-growth, see international investment into the country, then in a year and a half, when we get the next election and we solidify a stronger position in the House and the Senate, I think that's where fiscal responsibility will kick in even more. But it's going to be hard to do that, I think, over the short term. But again, I'm excited. It's funny that we can use vacation time to get bills through, but that's exactly what's going to happen. And that's going to be the big thing for this week, guys. That's going to be the driver for this week. Yeah, the Bitcoin buys of, again, 8,500 Bitcoin purchased between MetaPlanet and Strategy this week. Pretty big deal, in my opinion. And right now, again, what we're doing, if you look down over in the bottom right corner, guys, at the Bitcoin map, we had the highest weekly close in Bitcoin's history, which is good. And to test back to the fib, and again, look at all the volume. If you look at all the volume underneath of us, I'm sorry to Josh Mandel. I actually stopped following him because he's such a Debbie Downer, dude. I just can't listen to him. He's not really saying anything, which is what I have the biggest problem with. He throws out like little quips and little poetic sentences and doesn't actually say anything that's interesting to me. And I get that people love him and that he's a new prophet. We always have prophets in the Bitcoin world. And he gave 444,000 after doing a really good job timing bounces and tops recently and made a ton of money off of it. And I don't want to discount any of that. But I'm not really hearing anything of substance from him talking about the macro, the geopolitical, and why things need to unwind the way that they are. I also don't understand his political alignment to understand what kind of biases he might have. I just don't. I'm not getting enough substance to really pay attention. So if you guys hear substance and you hear something that's interesting, let me know. I kind of just turned him off for now. I hate to say that because he's following me, but I just kind of unfollowed him for now because I don't need more noise. And I don't think the market's doing bad at all. Again, if I look in that bottom corner, guys, I see a nice consolidation that probably a real brief short one before we go higher because the macro says we're going to go higher. Money printing galore all over the place. On that subject, let's see here. Stimulus is being applied all over the world in many different ways. I've said Thailand scrambles as U.S. tariff storm hits hard. Facing 36% tariffs and downgraded growth forecast, Thailand just dropped a tax-heavy lifeline for struggling SMEs. Think about 100% income tax waivers for firms upgrading their capabilities because in a trade war, survival favors the efficient. Also on the chopping block, incentives for oversupplied and eco-risky sectors like steel and solar. Anyway, so they're doing their part to try and stimulate within their economy, and we're going to see a ton of that. We're going to see a ton of it. I'm going to jump real quickly over to bonds, and I want to talk about this. So everybody's worried about the bond market. The 10-year is roughly where it was 3 years ago, but we keep talking about how they're just skyrocketing, the bonds. And the 30-year is steeper. That is true. The 10-year is not that steep. And if we look at the 2-year, we pop over the 2-year here for a second, you can actually see the 2 year has been rolling over. So again, the curve has started to right itself in the right direction. And I think this is good. I know normally this would be a bad thing in markets, but I'm not worried about it. And I'll talk more about why I'm not worried about it. Again, it's all the macro and the fundamentals. But if we look here, I'm going to just say this again. We've got 2.5 to 3 years of a downward RSI on the weekly time frame, or I'm sorry, the monthly time frame that wants to pull bond yields down. And we have Treasury that has all the tools in their arsenal in order to be able to do this. And I want to talk to that next. So I said the USA can and will buy our own bonds just like Japan has done for over a decade. Scott Bessent has literally said they will do buybacks, and they've started to do it over the last month. We'll show you that in a little bit. I said this is one method that we'll use to keep bond yields from getting out of control over the short term next year plus. Again, global market investors, a doomer and a gloomer, says this is absolutely insane. The Bank of Japan owns a whopping 52% of its domestic government bond market. Again, if they can do it for 10 years, we can do it for 1. And all this is going to do is just make it toward the longer end of the curve. A less liquid market has better yields and returns, even if other countries start selling our bonds for some reason. Let me keep going here. Toby Wan 71 class action lawsuit filed against MicroStrategy over alleged misleading statements on its Bitcoin strategy. Okay, well, that's not surprising. It's not surprising that somebody's looking to sue them for something. Yeah, this is what happens when you put information out there. It becomes misleading. We'll see how that lawsuit goes. All right, I put German and Japanese bond markets are in trouble. The USA is not. So this is off of Michael Howell, again, probably one of the foremost people in global liquidity with cross-border capital. He said, since the start of 2025, U.S. term premia are 10 bips higher. Wow, is the end of safe haven status, as many claim. Consider that the Japanese and German equivalent TPs are up 30 to 40 bips. So he's saying, hey, these are up, quite significantly more. Maybe it's not the U.S. that's looking to have major issues with their bonds anytime soon. Bar chart put monthly global economic policy uncertainty index at its highest level in history. I eat this shit up for breakfast. I love this kind of stuff. I love it when people are frightened of what's in front of us. This makes me super duper pooper happy. I love it. Also, Jeff Parks put, unless we change the actual definition. So this is fascinating to me. So we've got this post. Let's listen to Scott Bessent first, because I really like Jeff, and he's got credentials that are way better than my own. But I just think he's wrong here, and I want to talk to why.
There are several components there. So if we unpack it, there is the growth, the potential growth of the debt. But what's more important is that we grow the economy faster. So what we've seen under the past 4 years, and what we inherited, I inherited 6.7% deficit to GDP, which was the highest deficit when we were not at war, not in a recession. So we've been trying to bring down the spending, and we are going to grow the revenue side. So we are going to grow the GDP faster than the debt grows, and that will stabilize the debt to GDP, which even Secretary Yellen and I agree is the most important number.
So, yes, 100%. You want to grow faster than you create your debt, right? Because if you're growing faster than you're creating your debt, then you're sustainable. Okay? Everybody talks about how we shouldn't have debt in the United States. I think one thing that I got from the All In podcast over the weekend, and I don't even know if I have any good slides on this. I should have put them out. Maybe I'll leave that for tomorrow, is just talking about how we need to start accessing our balance sheet more, and talking about the potential of 150 trillion to 600 trillion in assets that we have that are not being utilized by the federal government. If you look, the largest owner of land in the United States and access to resources is the United States by a huge margin. And these are just untapped resources. Again, our gold stockpile. If gold goes up a bunch more and we readjust from the 40 something an ounce that we were sitting at previously, back I think in the 70s was the last time it was evaluated, to now, if we adjust that, we could print $1 trillion for the market in a heartbeat. just based on those assets, let alone, again, all the natural resources, all the land, all the stuff that we can pull from to where we can start using our balance sheet for positive things. And when you look at, what is it, $39 billion in federal debt, what is the debt clock? Oh, I'm sorry, 36.9 billion or trillion, my bad, in federal debt. It looks pretty small in actuality to the amount of assets that we have. And so what I find interesting about Jeff Park here, and again, his credentials are better than my own, head of alpha strategies at Bitwise Invest, radical portfolio theory. He went to Stanford, worked for Morgan Stanley. Better credentials than my own, but I feel like he's not looking at the big picture here, because he says, unless we change the actual definition of GDP, the only path to growing the economy faster than the debt will remain inflation. No, that's not true. He said, this is why U.S. debt was downgraded. This is why 60-40 is breaking. This is why society is damaged. Own scarce assets. Now, I agree with him on the scarce assets. If you think everything's going to fail and that we can't fix the problems that we have, you do want to own Bitcoin. It's important to have that. But, and again, is the 60-40 portfolio breaking? Yes, it's been broken for a while. You can see that. You can see that by looking at something like TLT, or looking at bond yields since the pandemic, right? So you can see that it's been broken. But the whole thing of like the actual unless we change the definition of the GDP, the economy growing faster than debt will remain, we have to have inflation. No, that's not true. We've literally listened to Elon Musk talk about how he's going to be able to print robots that can produce GDP. So we don't need to change the definition. We just need to understand that the definition is changing with autonomy, with robotics, with all these things, and AI. The definition of GDP and effectiveness per employee is going to change astronomically to the upside. So I 100% disagree with Jeff Park here. And that's why I said there's also something called robotics and AI that shouldn't be discounted. You could literally print GDP in the future. So again, there are people that are super smart, and I love the fact that you went to Stanford. I'm a high school dropout in his basement, so you need to take it for what it's worth. But I don't think he's looking at that. I've never actually heard him talk about robotics or Tesla in any way. And so I think different people have different holes in their thesis. And this is an easy one for me to point out with Jeff, and I'd love to hear his retort to it. Pierre Poilievre from Canada, said this again. I was talking about this a second ago, but how Canada's manufacturing sector is now smaller than Ireland's, a country 1/8 the population of Canada, which is not a large population either, but rich in natural resource. So again, this is kind of sad, right? It's kind of sad when Canada has lost so much of its manufacturing base that Ireland is looking more appealing. Real quickly here, so it's about 7:18. We don't have anything in the way of economic data holding us back, so I'm going to keep rolling along. Dookie Pookie, great name by the way, says, Fed Chair Bostic says inflation expectations are moving in a troubling way. I don't really care about that. Is he even a voting member? I don't think he is, right? And I honestly, that guy, along with a bunch of people that work at the Fed, is probably a DEI hire. I'm not saying that because he's black. It's just because he's kind of an idiot. And so I don't care about any of that. Those guys are just like parrots to Jerome Powell. Waller is probably somebody you want to listen to. Jack Atskin, or Atskin, did I say that right? Is that the exact same way? Jesse, do you plan to rotate Bitcoin proxies to Tesla by end of year? Yeah, Tesla and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I plan on doing. Again, we can see Bitcoin consolidating, guys. It's at 102,471. 102 is probably the floor. Maybe could get to 100. Doubt it. All right, let's keep going. I guess abandoning yield curve control. So this is in regard to Japan. So Amit put this out. He put the Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba. I've got a funny one on this. Says Japan's financial situation is worse than Greece. Japan's 40-year bond. Yeah. So he's talking about how their situation, Ishiba, the Japanese Prime Minister, is talking about how their situation is worse than Greece. But then in another comment, he's actually talking about how they're not in a hurry to negotiate with the United States of America, which I find is hilarious. If they're in the economic situation of Greece got bailouts all the fucking time from Europe because of sheer desperation. So to act like they can slow roll negotiations in regard to tariffs. It's kind of funny. Maybe it's try to flex some "we own your bonds" power. I don't know. I think it's a really horrible decision for them, and I don't think they have as much power as they think they do. But my point up here was, I guess, abandoning yield curve controls after almost a decade of use and virtually no improvement in your economy isn't a good idea. Again, these guys did tons of buybacks, tons of things to control yields. And then recently they've decided to do the exact fucking opposite. Stop yield curve control and then raise rates. It's like they're retarded. They make Jerome Powell look intelligent right now, and it's kind of, I don't know, it reminds me of Turkey, where their currency has went down like 99.99% against the US dollar, let alone Bitcoin. Just really poor decision making. And again, just me shitting on Canada. So Gergerban talking about how the list of countries that are now higher credit rating than the United States: Australia, Canada, Denmark, Germany, all these countries, right? Even though Germany's bonds are exploding higher in yield, and Canada, again, didn't even create a budget. So it's just amazing that these guys have a higher rating. Seth Golden, NASDAQ 100 bullets. Okay, I think we're good with that. I think I got a lot of the U.S. economic stuff. BTC short-term target. I think we're near it. I think we're really near it. I think we're near it. I think we're actually getting ready to break out. And again, I'm saying this not just talking out of my ass. If I just look over here where MetaPlanet closed last night, again, I think the treasuries are going to be the ones that really matter, guys. I think it's treasuries. And if we look at the 4-hour over here, just look at MetaPlanet and the kind of week it has had, just even since April 27th, it looks like. Let's run this real quick and see what kind of return you would have gotten from the bottom of the end of April. You would have gotten to the peak in after hours trading 121% return over a period of less than 3 weeks, or I'm sorry, right about 3 weeks. So 3 weeks right now, it's 111%. I think that's a pretty good return for MetaPlanet. And again, these guys are little money printers. They're able to do things. Dylan LeClaire is somebody who I idolize. That kid is amazing. I say kid, he's an adult, but to me, he's a kid. And then I look at something like Simler Scientific that went up, 28% on Friday. And this might look bad right now, but again, it went up even more too. But if we look at the 4-hour here, so it was actually up to $43.36 on Friday. But this is kind of beautiful. We're after closing up 28.59% on Friday. What a great day. I hope people listen to me, got in down here. This is where we talked about it on this channel Friday morning. And I said I was going to buy a huge amount. And then I did. I don't know what I own right now. Let me just see here. I have $250,000 in Simler. I'm sorry. I bought in another account too. $350,000 in Simler Scientific right now, a company that is only a $455 million market cap. But again, it's above peak volumes. You can see this beautiful one shelf right here at the 38.91. That's kind of sick. And if we zoom out a little bit further, again, look at this. Look at that shelf that's sitting underneath of us. That is a thing of beauty. Look at that. So we're only down 2.83% in pre-market, even though we had an almost 30% run on Friday. I don't think you can ask for better. This premium is coming back. It was a 1, and if you didn't look at diluted, it was like a 0.92 for the premium, so it was technically operating at a discount. Now it's closer to 1.5x shares diluted. And I could see these guys starting to buy again too, because the CEO definitely seemed like he is that guy. Thank you for the tip, B2E1. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say in there, but thank you for the $5. I appreciate it. But yeah, so I'm feeling really good. These proxies, these treasury proxies are looking sick, in my opinion, looking very, very strong, looking like a real good opportunity to make a bunch of money. And I hope people are getting on board with that, because there's some opportunity to be had here. Let's jump to Bitcoin real quick. Oh, you know what? Actually, I want to go back to tariffs just to make fun of Japan. So again, Japan won't rush U.S. trade deals, says Ashiba, the same one who said that they're failing like Greece. Tokyo won't compromise national interests just to meet time limits in trade talks with the U.S., stressing Japan won't accept a deal that skips the 25% car tariff. We will not follow other countries simply because they are moving forward. Talk continues this week, and Japan pushes for full tariff exemptions, even with 24% across the board levy set to return in July. All right, well, we're not in a rush either, so that's cool. All right, let me go back over here. So let's jump to Bitcoin. Is this true? MicroStrategy class action lawsuit? Yeah, people love lawsuits. Sounds true. I don't really care. Might pull down MicroStrategy today, but I don't think it's going to do much to the other treasuries. They're ready to rock. What's your price target for Mara and MetaPlanet? I think MetaPlanet, I just said earlier today, I think it can easily do a 6 to 10x. That's my take on that one. Mara will do less. I think it's probably, I'm gauging between like 30 and 40. So 100, 200%, I think is a pretty conservative target. But then with my options contracts, I'm looking at a multitude of that, maybe 10x or more. And I've got about 850,000 in Mara. So that would be a big number. But yeah, I think they can do all right. I really like the smaller treasury companies the most. Bitcoin historian breaking Russian central bank to lift restrictions on financial instruments tied to Bitcoin and crypto. The Russian billionaires are coming. My buddy James says on Friday, on-chain data screamed bullish. Then came the downgrade, exactly the chaos Bitcoin feeds on. And just like that, the Sunday pump day is back. I love Sunday pump days. Again, MetaPlanet bought 1,000 for Bitcoin. We're going to talk about MetaPlanet a little more in a bit. And again, it's up. We love up. My buddy Kevin Svensson said that Bitcoin should be running to 115,000 now for its next measured move. I actually think we could hit 110 to 115 on this next leg. 110 is a little more conservative. I do want to listen to Jack Mallers here. I love him very, very much. Nick Holly says, can't wait to see where those proxies, especially miners, are going when we finally get into the price discovery range for Bitcoin. Agreed. It's going to be sick. Let's listen to Jack Mallers real quickly. Tell us why we're going to go to price discovery.
And this is why Bitcoin will decouple, because Bitcoin isn't priced
I love how excited he gets.
on earnings. And if countries are looking for something to own, you're going to want scarce reserve assets. Long gold, long Bitcoin. Easy. So people don't understand what we're living through. And I'm looking on the internet and everyone's freaking out. And my message to my audience and to the Bitcoiners is just relax. You got to breathe, calm down, understand what you own, understand what we're living through right now. Let the stock market puke and figure itself out. And by the way, is it over? No. What are we living through right now? We're trying. Yeah, I'm literally on Wall Street having meetings with Wall Street people. This city is full of a bunch of over-levered, pompous hedge fund assholes. These guys, I mean, the stock market's down like 4%. These guys are begging and pleading and screaming for a bailout. Give me a break. Everyone wants a relief rally. We're now at the phase where everyone's like, oh, you hear that? Oh my God. Trump said that he's open to negotiations. Trump said he might walk back what he said. And no one's actually pricing in the fact that Trump means business. Whether you like it or not, Trump wants to help the poor American. Trump wants to create factory jobs. Trump wants to produce stuff here. Trump wants to fix the deficit problem. That's until I see otherwise, Trump is about business. Trump is keeping his promises. Whether you like it or not, this is not a political podcast. I'm just calling it how I see it. And you've got a bunch of over-levered people here in New York that are just losing their mind. It is what it is. And this is so bullish for Bitcoin. They're going to have to print so much money. They're going to have to.
I do agree with that.
Bitcoin is really priced with how much fiat currency is sloshing around in the world. And in order for all of this to play out and work, we have to debase our currency. We have to devalue our debt. And we have to create more fiat. It's going to send Bitcoin nuclear.
Agreed. This is the thing that people need to be paying attention to. Jack Mallers is a pretty big guy in the Bitcoin world. If you don't know him from Strike and all the other stuff, and now he's got like the 21 or whatever company. He's got the lending service or bank. He's very involved. And also, too, he was the person that announced at the Bitcoin conference, I forget which one it was, that El Salvador was coming online with Bitcoin as a reserve asset in their country, and that they were going to be embracing it as a form of currency. He's one of the people that literally helped create that. So he's a good dude. He's a hardworking dude, and he's brilliant. So just remember that. I said nowhere near the peak. So Decode put this out there. It shows the macro trend oscillator, the MTO. This is another oscillator that we're going to be watching. But if you look here, it shows histogram peaks are optimized so that the first line green bar is in alignment with the Bitcoin cycle peak. Perfect signal on the monthly time frame. I've been working on a feature to correct the lag that's inherent in the oscillator's smoothing functions, and combined with everything that has already been built, I think this is now the best implementation possible. If you want to know more about this macroeconomic oscillator, please read the thread below. I spent hundreds of hours developing this, and it's not just for Bitcoin. That's awesome. The thing I wanted to point out here is, and this is, again, one of many that I'll be looking at, it does print maybe a better visual than some of the others, is that this did a good job, this oscillator that he's showing here, showing when the top was reached, right? You get up here, the top's reached shortly after. You get up here, the top's reached shortly after. You get up here, the top's reached shortly after. What I wanted to point out with this visual is that we haven't started. We haven't started. I wanted to point that out. I think that's something you need to understand. And again, it goes much more into depth. I won't go into all that right now. Koosh also posted this. It shows Eli Lilly. It shows a macro reaccumulation and what happens with price action, and it's showing a stock. He also has another one of this for gold that we're going to look at. But what he's saying is you need to understand these patterns. This is what's happening, and this is where we're going. His target is a little higher than my own. I'm trying to be conservative, even though I do have in my ambitious target 300,000, roughly 330,000-ish target. He is pointing more towards 370. But again, you can't say shit like that right now, or people think you're crazy. If we get to 150 and we do it in short order, and a lot of really crazy news events come out, then all of a sudden these other numbers start to look more attainable. But I will be dialing out of leverage the entire way, getting out of 2Xs, getting out of options contracts, deleveraging on the way up. That's just how I do it. And then moving into the more stable versions, and then eventually liquidating some of that and diversifying into other things. That is the plan, and I will talk about it the whole time on the way up. Matt C. said, stop trying to make 84,000 happen. It's not going to happen. I agree with that. I think Josh will look foolish, and Josh will be able to simply say, now all the people that follow him and that sell all their Bitcoin because they're worried about 84K Bitcoin or something of that nature. And could that happen? I mean, shit, 92, something like that. Sure, it could happen. You could get that. You can get there can be things that happen. What I worry about is that it seems like there's a bunch of people that have followed him on his trade and completely exited. And Bitcoin is like the life vest for what's happening right now. It's not the thing that has the biggest downside risk. That's traditional markets. And those look spectacular, honestly, from technicals and all different kinds of data points going back to the beginning of time or the 40s, because it's really, there aren't a lot of comparables before that time frame, just based on how markets worked. But I digress. I just don't see it happening. And I think people that are waiting for this just to happen are going to be disappointed. And here's the thing. Josh won't give a shit. You know why Josh won't fucking care? Because he wrote up MicroStrategy 15x, and then after he sold on it, started shitting about everything. So he won't care. He can just be like, guys, I made 15x. Fuck off. But the people that are following him like he's a god right now probably will. Financial analyst Lynn Alden says Bitcoin's going much higher because it's still early. Yes, it is. And listen to this. It's good.
I don't know if you've not been on Twitter for a while, Lynn, but Bitcoin's priced in teeth.
Yeah.
That was one of the most frustrating things I've ever seen. I can't believe people are comparing Bitcoin to teeth in 2020.
This is about the Financial Times lady that's saying, well, my teeth are scarce. Why aren't they worth billions?
5.
I'm bullish on it because it shows that it's still just poorly understood. If everyone understood it and this was the price, it'd be like, well, is this how far we're getting? But the fact that so many people still don't understand it, I'm like, well, that's why we're only this far. That's why Bitcoin's worth 2.2%. So 0.2% of global assets roughly are Bitcoin's equal to that value. Gold's 2%. And that's partially why is because people are still like, well, my teeth are scarce. Why aren't they worth billions? It's like, well, because they're not part of a dominant network effect fungible protocol. It's like, why isn't my little pet protocol competing with simple mail transfer protocol or USB, because it's not even close, right? It's just, you know.
Lynn's 100% right. And again, if we just look, guys, it doesn't take a lot to figure out that we're not close, even just for this cycle. Again, this is the tippity top that we saw over here in the 2021 cycle. Technically, this is like the first top. But if we go back even further, if we go back like to present, you can see it like a cycle top over here in Bitcoin, right? 2013. You can see another one here in 2017. You can see the one over here that got neutered. I feel like in 2021, I feel like we would have went even higher and maybe got something, I don't know, comparable to 2017, because 2017 was such a unique event that just rushed in so many at once. But I would expect something at least like 2021 to happen before we get toppy in Bitcoin's price action. This is just Google Trends. This is Google Trends. So again, if we just look back historically here, 2013, 2017, 2021 would have been like over here, I think up here, and we're way down here. We're just nowhere near anything of interest at all whatsoever in the peak interest of Bitcoin. The Alfonso said, Jesse, did you exit all your TSLL? No, I've got like 2% of my portfolio still in TSLL, and then 10% in Tesla. I liquidated a decent amount though. And then I think I've already got orders for like another 15,000 in Bitcoin, or I'm sorry, Tesla purchases, just TSLA for this morning. And I might buy more if it goes down more. We'll see. What of my mustache says, what are your thoughts on Beto, December calls leverage on BTC running? I haven't really paid much attention to it because I've got all these other plays that I'm working on. So it's not really something I'm following at all. But again, I think Lynn's right about what's happening. I also put this, I got a little rhymey, little timey-wimey. I said, there are patterns in this world that most people cannot see. What a blessing for me. Talking about how it went up. And of course we went up to here and then we went back down and now we're back over here. But we're in a beautiful place, and we're still going up, and I'm sticking to it because I'm going to be right. Bitcoin looking for group says Bitcoin breaking South Korea. South Korea approves historic bill allowing National Pension Fund to invest in Bitcoin. Absolutely bullish. And this happened actually on the 16th, later in the day on Friday. That's Friday, right? I think it is. Also, Alistair said, why aren't new all-time highs when Saylor is buying nonstop? Because retail individuals wrecked by meme coins and shit coins with weak time preference have been capitulating and selling their winning investment if they had any. Soon only maxis in the strongest hands will be left. I want to point this out because this is important. When we look at changes in Bitcoin ownership, according to River, for 2025, businesses are buying the fuck out of it. Funds and ETFs are coming in a distant second. Other is buying. Governments are buying. And then individuals are a bunch of little bitches. So it's these people, it's all the shit coiners that are selling the fuck out of this. It's why you see Google Trends showing that there is no retail interest in Bitcoin. And when I look around, guys, when I look around at, where am I? Am I over here? Where? When I look around at the feeds in regard to investing and Bitcoin, so many fucking negative people right now. So many negative people that are normally really bullish on Bitcoin that are just shitting all over it right now. So I just want to reiterate, there's a lot of scared people out there. A lot of really scared people. All right, I want to show a couple other things here. So billionaire and Pantera Capital CEO just said the U.S. will sell gold. I believe this is true. I don't think it's going to necessarily happen right away. This is 18 seconds. Let's listen to it.
The U.S. has 11 million years of workers' wages buried in a stone pyramid in Kentucky in gold. That's obviously very antiquated. That's what the pharaohs did 40 centuries ago. I think that'll be transferred into crypto, Bitcoin, over the next few years.
Over the next few years. And I think that's the important part of what he said. It doesn't have to happen this cycle. Now, somebody just add, what about TLT leaps? I'm not super fond of TLT leaps. I mean, it looks like TLT is down almost another 2% today, looking at levels not seen since October of 2023. So I still think that, again, the bond market could take hits. It could take hits from Japan. What happens if Japan starts dumping our bonds? I think now is too early to get interested in such a thing. So I'm not remotely interested in TLT. Now, near the end of the year, I might be interested in some bonds, and I'll probably have a lot of cash that I'll need to get a yield on too. I'll be looking at a number of vehicles for that. That will probably be one of them. Probably. Just in Cincinnati, well, I mean, this is Friday, late Friday. Cincinnati's Fifth Third Bank is ramping up crypto plans, citing clear regulations and growing institutional demand. Seems like a big deal. We've got a rebrand of Top Wind as Asia Strategy. So with plans to build a Bitcoin treasury across Asia, that seems like a pretty big deal. Matthew, how far out is your MetaPlanet option? I don't have options, actually. I just have the stock. I think the stock can 5 to 10x, 6 to 10x. So I'm not playing around with options with it. I'm just dealing with the stock. And again, it's up like 9.63% and after hours from Japan. So it's doing plenty good without any option play whatsoever. Let's keep going down. So my buddy Jake, again, just showing how the floor and then the support line and then the fact that we're getting ready to break out in Bitcoin and his target of the 2.1618, the golden retracement zone, shows 165,000 for the next breakout range, which is cool. Again, Bitcoin miners, Crypto Rand says the big squeeze is coming. If we look over here, we can see how Bitcoin miners, a miner reserve, all miners, how their reserves have dropped and they're staying kind of flat, but they're not lowering. So you can see how sell pressure is disappearing with the miners, which is great because, again, they can be one, since they're generating 450 a day across the entirety of the network, they can provide a decent amount of sell pressure. But the buy pressure is 150% more than what the miners are receiving. And then if the miners aren't selling too, that should tell you what's going to happen with the Bitcoin price. Oh, we got a Jackie back, and he's talking about some other shit. Let's listen to this real quickly. I think this is a different conversation. It might be the same one. Oh, let me check.
And this is why Bitcoin will decouple, because Bitcoin isn't priced on earnings. And if countries are looking for something to own, you're going to want scarce reserve assets. Long gold, long Bitcoin. Easy. So people don't understand what we're...
Again, no earnings related risk, no national risk. It's just good. It's good, and BlackRock is going to talk about that in another video here in a second.
We're living through, and I'm looking on the internet and everyone's freaking out. And my message to my audience and to the Bitcoiners is just relax. You got to breathe, calm down. Understand what you own. Understand what we're living through right now. Let the stock market puke and figure itself out. And by the way, is it over? No. What are we living through right now? All
right, so he covers some of that there. So it's just, again, a different talking point. So somebody just asked about my portfolio. And again, guys, just remember, I just updated it yesterday. This is as of the end of Friday and over the weekend. So you can look in here and see where I'm positioned. You can actually see that I do have a little bit of MSTR and MSTX, about 6% of my portfolio position. But again, a lot of that I moved into MetaPlanet and SMLR for a reason. So I do have those positions. Hey, Jesse, is there any logic on why miners were higher last year with BTC than when considering where BTC levels at? Is this a stupid question? It's not a stupid question. It's just an uninformed one because you don't know the answer, right? Which is why you're asking it, which is okay. So you got to realize this. The miners, the difficulty for the network has gotten a lot higher. So it's a lot harder to mine, and they've had to spend a lot more money on mining equipment, and they've had to increase their hash rate in order to be able to stay competitive. So you have these. So when the price of Bitcoin essentially goes sideways for a year, which is kind of what it's done, but the difficulty is getting higher. You're going to have pain in these miners. Now, what we're looking for in Q2, I think we can get to 140, 150 by the time these guys get ready to report in July for their June earnings, and those numbers will look beautiful. They'll look beautiful, and so I think that you'll see a big jump here soon. But you have to think of like dilution. You have to think about difficulty getting worse. They are not ones that you want to hold on to for a long time. So, it looks like my air conditioning people are here. They're going to install a humidifier in the AC unit too, which is very exciting. So I ended up buying a new one. So I spent like 20 grand, whatever. Anyway, so just remember about these factors. Bitcoin miners are not something you want to hold on to for a long period of time. Don't do it. Don't do it. You'll get fucked. They're a very short window of opportunity that you'll want to exit out of. So don't be like, I know Rex Finance or whatever his real name is. I can't believe that guy's a twin. I never knew that before. But he's talking about like just holding Clean Spark. I would not fucking do that. I would not fucking do that. You sell that shit. You sell that shit, you make your money, you get the fuck out. That's what you do. The Alfonso, I'm hearing news that gold can be produced in the lab. That's not real. Yeah, don't worry about that. That's not real. So they produced it in the lab for like a millisecond, but they can't get it to stay that way. So they're not turning lead into gold anytime soon. And that's why you see the price of gold still going higher, up 1.2% today. Tyler, class action lawsuit against MicroStrategy. Yep, old news. That happened like an hour ago. Value Maxi, hi Jesse, did you buy some MSTY? Don't see it. I did, and then I sold it, and I post all that stuff for anybody that's members on X and also in Discord. I sold it really quickly. I don't like MSTY. I actually don't even know if MSTY will make it through the next bull market because, again, they're using derivatives and doing a bunch of shit. They could totally get blown up. I know some people, like I think it's like a Bitcoin hodl, the British dude. He's talking about like, I don't know. I don't know if he's planning on holding that through the bear. I wouldn't. Now, Strife or Strike, maybe, but I'm probably going to buy them at like the lower in the bear. That way I can get those juicy returns of 8 and 10%. Plus, not have the downside risk. So I'd probably look to do that for income and maybe stick with like a TLT or something else or cash. Collecting a higher yield for a while before I jump back into something like that. So again, just maybe that, but honestly, like something like Strife or Strike, maybe that's still a better ride than riding down like an IBIT, an actual like Bitcoin proxy, because maybe you have the same amount of downside risk, but then you get paid out in dividends. And then have the upside potential. So I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But MSTY is probably not going to be my vehicle for that. Have I checked out United Healthcare? No, I haven't, but I know it's probably doing all right. It's probably getting a little bouncy. I don't care about the healthcare space at all. It's nothing I'm interested in. The bet isn't asymmetric enough for me, even though this could do all right. It's up 4.8%. One of the few things outside of communications that's up in pre-market, but I don't really give a shit about it. So, but I'm happy for anybody who bought the bounce. It was very oversold, and it was worth buying if you're interested in that kind of stuff. All right, let's keep going on Bitcoin. I wanted to speak to this. I know this is cheesy and stupid, but in Fortnite, there is a Bitcoin mine in the game. There's 240 million active players in this game. That's why I bring it up. You can mine your Bitcoins in this mine, in this game. I think that's important. It's teaching the next generation that this is valuable, and I think it's important to understand that. Let me see here. Is this the gold one? No, this is Eli Lilly. We already talked about that one. We already went through here with Lynn. We already talked about that. I already talked about Korea. I already talked about how retail is being stupid and selling shit. Again, Tom Lee right here talking about MicroStrategy is a granny shot and talking about their award-winning performance. Because again, on May 17th, Saylor put this out. He said first place this quarter for performance, first place for the year, first place since adopting the Bitcoin standard. So winner, 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 chicken dinner. It is all about MicroStrategy doing much better than everybody else on this list. Probably continuing to do that for a while. Let's see here. So the Czech Republic is one of the most quietly important players in Bitcoin's global story. This is a pretty good one, headline. You could dig through it. It just talks about the history of it and how they're deeply integrated and how there's a market that they're helping foster. It's good stuff. Again, it just shows another country that's doing a great job. Okay, so here's the one from Kush that I wanted to show you. So we've got where we are right now for Bitcoin, this consolidation above these previous levels, which is still doing all right. Again, I said 102 is probably the bottom. We're sitting at 102, 3, 4, 6. I think it's very controlled going into the opening of the market. But he's saying this week we could go a lot higher, and here he's showing a target of like 270. And he's just doing that with a gold comparison, right? Showing what happened in 1970, 1980, how we had this parabolic uptick, and how he expects that to happen again. Also, one thing that I wanted to notate from this chart is you don't necessarily have to sell right at the top. I'm going to be selling on the way up, and then I'll try and deleverage at the absolute top if I'm able to find that. But if you miss the top, you can actually buy the dip, because like what happened with gold here, once you become really oversold, you can buy the dip and then sell on the rip. So you don't necessarily have to time the top perfectly. That's just another strategy that I'm looking to employ. This is another 2.4 minutes on from Jack Mahler's talking kind of broadly about the world right now and what's happening. I like this one. I wanted to share it. Again, I'm not maybe as doom and gloom as he is about what's happening in the world right now. I'm more positive in nature. But if you are doom and gloom, you got to be in Bitcoin. Let's listen real quickly.
Everyone's waiting for like the great collapse. Everyone's waiting for zombies, apocalypse in the street, for everyone to walk outside and buildings to be on fire. That's when Bitcoin is going to succeed. That's when the dollar is going to fail. That's when America is going to go through significant changes and a significant decline. And they're like, I'll wait for the dollar to fail. Buddy, the dollar's not failing, quote unquote. It's happening right in front of you. What if I told you Bitcoin was going to be over 100,000 5 to 10 years ago per Bitcoin?
Well, what's the value of one Bitcoin?
I mean, I think right now, one Bitcoin, $110.
You would have thought, you're crazy. There's no way. If Bitcoin's over 100,000, the dollar's dead. Buildings are on fire. There's zombies in the streets. Bitcoin's 100,000. I'm here in Chicago. The sun's up. I went for a walk today. I went to Whole Foods yesterday with my girlfriend. What if I would have told you guys since 2010, there's been over 1 million Americans dead from drug overdose?
We have had more overdose deaths in 1 year than we did of COVID deaths.
What if I would have told you that America has the biggest obesity problem in the world?
The number of obese Americans is now around 40%.
Half of America is fat. What if I told you gold, $3,500, all-time high after all-time high after all-time high, central banks piling into gold, the U.S. talking about auditing Fort Knox?
President Trump and Elon Musk have cast doubt on whether the U.S. gold reserves stored at Fort Knox still exist.
If I would have told you all of these things 20, 30 years ago, you would have said, no way. No way the American people would stand for this. There'd be civil unrest. There'd be an uproar. There'd be a civil war. Everyone seems to be thinking this is normal. There's never going to be an apocalypse. There's never going to be buildings on fire. There's never going to be the great collapse. It's all just part of the process. One day you'll blink and Bitcoin will be 1 million. Just trying to say, it's not going to be like no one's going to fly a banner through the sky and say, the world is changing. Buy neutral reserve assets. Take care of your health. Think for yourself. No, it's not going to happen. One day you're going to realize it was all happening one day at a time. Think for yourself. Take care of your body. Eat a clean diet. Work hard. Love people. Do favors. Hold money that no one else can print.
100% agree with this man. Again, talking about how years ago when people were saying, oh, Bitcoin's price is around $100, they would have thought the world had already collapsed with Bitcoin being at 103 today, 102.3 today. And yet people today are worried that Bitcoin's going to collapse, and they're not thinking the world is falling apart around them. You might be thinking that to some degree, but then you go outside and everything seems fine. In the city I live in, there is so much growth, so much building going on. And yet, again, we're worried about catastrophe. Maybe it's time to realize that it might not come at you the way you think it's going to. And by the time you are able to act, it's going to be too late and the opportunity will have been missed. So if you're worried, own Bitcoin and just own it without leverage. And then you got nothing to worry about. You got all the time in the world. Go out, go to a park, hang out with your girlfriend, enjoy your life, spend time with your children, and do all the things he was talking about, because that's a better way to live life. And again, just be smart. Realize, don't be short-sighted with Bitcoin. Not right now. This is the parabolic phase. Micro to macro, that's me. I said, I think persistent. Oh, so Crypto Klepto, he's big on Morrow. He said, Jesse, curious what your thoughts are on ETFs, how they'll change the cycles in the future. My guess is that as more BTC is held in ETFs, the impact of quarterly rebalancing will be the big effect where Bitcoin gains get trimmed every quarter end and reallocated to the portfolio categories. Yeah, that's possible too. But I said I think persistent buying of Bitcoin from ETFs, reserves, treasuries, pensions, and indexes will start to limit downside risk, while sheer size will lower upside potential. Somebody took that negatively, that last part. Guys, it's economies of scale. You're going to get lesser returns because of the sheer size of something. That's just how it works. It's called math. But this will be one of the best risk to reward adjusted investments of the next several decades. I'm saying Bitcoin. Tesla will be up there too, but this will be one of the best, if not the best. And after that time, I'm not sure what money even starts to mean anymore. And just me saying over a couple decades from now, I don't know what money will mean when we have billions of robots doing all the stuff for us and we have an age of abundance. I don't know what money means anymore. It's going to get complicated. There's a whole nother lot of reevaluating that's going to happen over that time frame. But right now, the best thing you can do is own Bitcoin, own Tesla, be smart with your money, and enjoy your life, because you can save up all the Bitcoins. You could get all the Bitcoins and still not live a good life. Bitcoin Archive, Hong Kong-based investment firm Avenir disclosed owning 863 million Bitcoin through BlackRock's ETF. Again, just like, look at this, guys. I said Bitcoin treasuries are driving the driving factor for the next leg higher in Bitcoin's price action. That's evident by the blockchain group, right? Up 1,100% in a little over 6 months because they launched a Bitcoin strategy for their treasury. This is just amazing. This is where all the performance is. It's certainly beating shitcoins. Shitcoins are doing okay, but man, it's so much more. Eric Trump, sovereign wealth funds. We already talked about that one the other day. I do want to real quickly, I'm going to jump over to MetaPlanet. So Epoch said, my info was incomplete. MetaPlanet actually is in 4 ETFs benefiting from passive inflows. He said Block, without a C, 4.4% weighting, Block with a C, 6.27, Own B, 5.27 or 5.25, and Wisdom Tree blockchain ETF. So there's actually 4 different ETFs that hold MetaPlanet, which is great. It's just continued inflows. But 2E1, thank you for becoming a member. Dylan LeClaire said MetaPlanet closed Monday as the 9th, again, last night in Japan, as the 9th most liquid publicly traded stock in Japan with 61.69 million yen, $425 million in volume, daily volume, ahead of Toyota, SoftBank, and Nintendo. Kind of seems like a big deal. Vincent said currently MetaPlanet, this is the MetaPlanet symbol for Japan, is the top. And you'll see, guys, if you're looking at that symbol, I just want to make sure some people might be confused by this because, again, there's the MTPLF, that's the OTC in the United States, but the 3350 is the Japanese version of that. The Japanese one will tell you the market cap is 365 billion. That is yen. That is not dollars. So that is a lot less money. This market cap is about $2.5 billion. But I just want to make sure people understand the difference between the two. And if I'm showing, sometimes just a new number that's in the 600s, or if I'm showing something that's $4.39 and a $2.57 billion market cap. But this is the U.S. version of that. So I am tracking it in a couple of different ways because, again, the Japanese just pushed this up 9.5%, almost 10% in after hours in their markets. And we'll see what we do with the ball now that we have it. But it's important to know that there's 2 different balls. Vincent said there are certain nuanced details that are worth investors' attention. So this is the CEO, I believe, of, Simon. Is he the CEO or the CFO? I can't remember. I think he is the CEO of MetaPlanet, hanging out with Eric Trump. MetaPlanet is thrilled to welcome Eric Trump to our newly formed strategic board of advisors. He's a board of advisors with MetaPlanet. His business expertise and passion for BTC will help drive our mission forward. This is just more signal, guys, for MetaPlanet and Bitcoin as a whole. Cheers to bold vintages and bold visions. Thanks for a great evening, Eric Trump. Here is MetaPlanet, to MetaPlanet's success. When you have the son of Donald Trump hanging out with these guys, it says a lot. And I did have a very brief write-up I wanted to speak to for MetaPlanet. I said the fact that they've been able to explode their revenues. So a friend of mine, Felix, he's got a YouTube channel. He is, I think, still living in Hong Kong. But he said, I don't even know that he's into Bitcoin yet, but he might have been saying this jokingly. He said, Micro, what's the advantage of MetaPlanet over MSTR apart from the FOMO Ken is creating? So I said the fact that they've been able to explode their revenues using the vol as an income generator while having very low debt and being 1/43rd the market cap size of MicroStrategy. So again, increase in revenue. This is an old dying hotel company. And I said, plus Dylan LeClaire, who I idolize. I love this man. He saved so many of us when Silicon Valley Bank and FTX and Luna and all these companies were collapsing. He was the single most valuable signal to GTFO out of those. And he saved me 6 figures of money and a bunch of other people that listened. But I said he's one of the most brilliant young men I've seen in the space. He helped prevent people from getting wrecked when Luna, FTX, Voyager, BlockFi, Silvergate Bank, and all of the other companies and cryptos were failing in the space. He said, and now he's an advisor to this company, working with strategy, and he's also a good friend of Michael Saylor. I have enough confidence to put $500,000 towards this. So again, I'm very optimistic about this company and the leadership behind it. Real quick, I'll jump to Simler real fast too. Is Chicken Genius seriously full port MetaPlanet? I think he is, which is a little crazy for me. I don't like being full port at anything, but I don't know. He doesn't display with the same level of clarity his portfolio, I believe, that I do. Even though I do like him. Tomar said, I'm having now way too much MSTX, thinking of selling some and moving to SMLR. Seems like the downside risk is quite smaller. I agree, actually. I do agree with that. I think the 2X fund, it was nice riding the 2X up. I think part of my portfolio was up over 100%, 140% before I sold a bunch of it because of that 2X nature of it and buying so much at the bottom with MSTX. But again, it's a 2X fund. It's got theta decay. It's got tracking errors. And MicroStrategy has also run, even from where we're at right now, I don't know, we ran 81% in a very short period of time. So maybe there's some downside risk in that. The market cap is 110 billion, 109 actually right now. Whereas you have a MetaPlanet that's 2.57 and you have a Simler that's 455 million. Much smaller caps, much greater potential upside. Simler's still running at 1.45x the NAV. Again, Cooler's at 4.91, right? So they're at 400% premium roughly versus their Bitcoin holdings. That's a lot. Saylor with the dilution here recently is that it gives you this little thing whenever they've bought, but at 2.1, so roughly 110% premium versus their Bitcoin holdings. You've got the blockchain group sitting at a 610% premium versus their holdings. Just a crazy number. I wouldn't buy that one. But then you got MetaPlanet more realistically at a 274% premium to their holdings. Much smaller cap, ballooning up like crazy. And then even better, in my opinion. But again, these guys are increasing income too. There's a lot to be said with that as far as revenue and income increases. Simler doesn't have that. We'll talk about them in a second. But again, without dilution, they're at a 20% premium. With dilution, they're at a 44% premium. So I think this is kind of a steal. And I think that NAV will probably build up, and then they'll dilute and they'll buy more Bitcoin with it. And I love it. This guy totally gets the thesis behind Saylor. But these are really good opportunities for upside potential. Again, 28.59%. That's what Simler did on Friday. It's down 2.79% in pre-market. But again, let me just speak to a little bit of this. So let me go down here. I think this is where I did the write-up. I said this is what I said in the morning before it went up almost 30%. Actually, it was up like 35% at one point. I said, I see no reason why Simler should be trading without a premium to NAV. It is not any longer. The CEO is brilliant and gets Saylor, what Saylor's doing. He's on board. He's on the board of FS Insight with Tom Lee. He has $5 million plus in positive cash flow per quarter to put towards their buying and can tap the ATM. I said, note revenues are decreasing, so this number is coming down. Their traditional business is not doing as well. I said 395 million in BTC versus 85 million in debt. I was showing how this last quarter they actually only bought shares. They didn't sell. Institutional ownership skyrocketing. It's got short interest of over 20%, so it's squeezable. That sentiment wasn't that good yet, but that analyst sentiment was very bullish, and earnings call sentiment was bullish. And again, they've got that declining revenue. That's really the only downside. Well, that and I said they aren't making income like MetaPlanet is because they don't have enough options interest right now. That's one of the things the CEO said when you watch this video down here with Natalie Brunell, his 42-minute video. I would highly watch this, guys. It is really good. I'm actually going to go in here and repost it just so it's right at the top for anybody who might want to watch it. I was very impressed by the CEO, and then looking at the financials, I liked the numbers, and that's why I gave it a shout out. But I said here, so this is from Grok, but it says MetaPlanet's massive revenue increase in Q4 2024 was driven by its Bitcoin income generation strategy, which generated high margin revenue through option premium harvesting, coupled with aggressive Bitcoin accumulation funded by bonds and equities. Again, I think a lot of this is Dylan LeClaire. I think he's brilliant. I said the strategy capitalized on Bitcoin's 2024 bull market, reducing reliance on the lower margin hotel business and achieving a 306% annual revenue increase to 890 million yen. Unlike Simler Scientific, which holds Bitcoin passively, MetaPlanet's active use of Bitcoin as a revenue source fueled its financial turnaround, positioning it as Asia's leading Bitcoin treasury company. So again, I'm a huge fan of that. But as the CEO of Simler talked about, Eric over here, he does get that he needs to have more volume and more options volume, and that way he can start tapping markets better and looking to generate income, something similar to what MetaPlanet is doing. So these guys are all they're all adopting similar strategies, kind of their own nuances, but I think this is a steal. I think this is a really great opportunity. Gary said, Jesse, did you sell MSTY? It's not showing. No, I did. Yes. I talked about that. I do publish my trades on X. And if you ever wanted to look at them historically, you can do that if you're a member on Discord as well. If you're a member on either of these, you're seeing that kind of stuff. And again, like it shows all my trades in here. I'm sure MSTY with a quick search, you would find me selling that too, and then switching over to other stuff. But yes, I did sell. So yeah, Simler I think is very, very interesting, and I love it, and I'm excited about it. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done here, I think. I do want to talk about a couple other things, so let me back out real fast out of this Simler bookmark. Let's go to China real quick. I want to shit on China, and then I want to go over to Trump. And again, we got about 23 minutes to market open. I'll probably stick around for market open, maybe look at a few charts, then I'm going to bail. We don't have any real economic data today, guys. If you look over here, you can see inflation data for core inflation in the EU, European Union area. Broader area went up a decent amount, 2.7% actual. That was consensus and forecast, but it was higher than previous. Outside of that, nothing was really interesting on here, and it pretty much came in line. We have nothing but Feds talking today, so nothing really interesting in the U.S. Tomorrow, we have virtually nothing interesting in the U.S. And so, again, I'm taking tomorrow off, but I will be back Thursday. Do we even have anything interesting Thursday for economic data? Or Wednesday, sorry. We do have mortgage-related data. That's it. So really, Wednesday isn't even that interesting. Maybe I'll do a Tuesday, Wednesday off. We'll see, though. If there's something actually interesting, then I'll talk about it. Thursday, we should have some good stuff kicking in. Let's see here. We have existing homes, jobless data. Yes, we got jobs data. And then, again, we'll probably have, we got more data coming in on Friday, too. So it's actually a pretty light week, guys. Shit. There isn't really much. This is kind of a pathetic week. So I don't think Friday doesn't have anything. Thursday has something. I might just do a Monday, Thursday, guys. I'm not going to lie. Wednesday doesn't even look interesting unless something comes up. If things get interesting or the world starts to fall apart and you guys need me, I'll be here. But so far, it looks like a Monday, Thursday week. So make sure you're here when I'm here, guys, because it's not going to be as much. So I'm very much interested in the revenue from Strike and Strife. I'm not so much interested. I don't know. I've got to think about it. When we get toppy, it's probably better than holding a straight up Bitcoin proxies like IBIT. You want to definitely be deleveraged. I've got to think about it though. I got to think about it because Strike again is going to have some of that downside risk. Probably not to the degree of an IBIT or to MicroStrategy itself. People might want again that dividend and the assurances that it gives, because you're just not going to see Bitcoin drop 90%. It's not going to happen, which means MicroStrategy isn't fucked, just like they're not fucked last time when everybody said they would be fucked. Nothing's changed. Friday also leads into Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, I'm probably going to skip. We'll see. I might just do Thursday, guys. It's probably going to be a really quiet time. So it might be really quiet. It might just be like Thursday and that's it, because there's really just nothing of interest. Box and Trox take off next Monday too. Yeah, definitely. Might have to do some more traveling too. But yeah, anyway, so let's keep going. So China, so Zero Hedge made jokes about it too, because China's data is bullshit. China's apparent oil demand falls 5.6% year over year, but at least GDP is up 5% always, every quarter, guaranteed, because it's a fake number. And I posted their unemployment rate data, and I said, I'll never understand why people even pay attention to Chinese data. It's all pure bullshit. They don't even try and fake anything that remotely looks real, which is why their data sets look like this. This is unemployment in China since 2003. Does this look weird to you? Remotely? It's not real. Nothing is real. Don't pay attention to it. Also, this idolization of China. Let's just go back and remember what China was like during lockdown for 3 fucking years. Let's listen to this real quick. These are drones telling you that you have to take your mandatory PCR testing. You have to have the nasal swab multiple times every fucking day to get out of your house. And that if you don't use it or don't do it, you'll be locked in your home. How is this not dystopian as fuck? Here is a man who failed his COVID test, and they're beating the shit out of him and going to take him to a quarantine camp, which is basically a prison, where sometimes these guys didn't even get fed all day. How did anybody think that China was utopia? You thought you had it bad in the United States? For 3 fucking years, these people lived this way. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? That kind of life? RS, thank you for becoming a member. Math 2, next week is PCE. Yeah, that'll be good stuff. Math 2, why looking at ETF as one entity? ETF could be where retail is. Not quite sure what you mean by that. Math 2. Jules, maybe we get a pump. I mean, the ETF is going to be directly correlated to Bitcoin's price. So it should track really, really close. It's not like Grayscale in previous years where it's an OTC and it doesn't track. So, yeah, the ETF would just be a way to directly track Bitcoin's price. You got to realize, though, hopefully you understand this. I'm in very leveraged things. I'm in options with miners, which are leveraged on something that can do 3 to 4x what Bitcoin does. So that's a lot of leverage. And then I've got my treasury plays and my MSTX, which is a 2x of what MicroStrategy does. And I've got some MSTR. I've got a lot of leverage that I'm going to dial out of. So like if I was jumping into an IBIT or an ETF, and again, I always add to my Bitcoin stack, but I don't talk about it on here. But if I do that, that's way less downside risk versus what I'm in right now with my multiplier to the upside. But again, maybe I'll end up doing something like a Strike or a Strife or a combination thereof, where it has limited downside risk, but I'm still getting some kind of return, and then also have a cash position and maybe some TLT. I got to think through all of it. I'm not quite there yet. Jules, maybe we get a pump from the big, beautiful bill this week. That's what I'm thinking. Then next week, we get solid PCE, and that's what sends BTC higher. I actually think BTC can go higher this week while the stock market kind of treads water, or maybe even goes down, and we reset our fear and greed index a little bit. Because if you look right now, this is still from last week. This is before the Moody's downgrade. And I think we trade down maybe into this morning and then back up again in broader markets, but we were in the greed 71 range. Getting this Moody's reset, having the stock market kind of dip a little bit or trade sideways is a nice little reset for us to continue to go up. So I'm all about that, and I do think that could happen. Sawyer Zeldner, that's when they were welding people's doors shut. Yeah, they were welding. This is actually probably a little bit after that, which is crazy. This is probably a year into it. Yeah, but like this, or 2 years into it, they had internment camps, like prisons, for 3 fucking years. They were locking people in prison cells if they ended up testing, positively for COVID. 3 years. V850Z, how do we know the bull market is over this year? Well, we know it's not over yet, right? Because we can look at virtually every metric. It could be that MTO oscillator thing. It could be the MRV-Z score. It could be the Puel multiple. It could be Google trend-related data. It could be anything, and it tells us that we're not even close. And then we can look at macro fundamentals where the Fed's eventually going to have to cut rates, whether it's June or July. I don't really care. And then at the same time, you look at the big, beautiful bill pumping markets and creating a bunch of liquidity and doing a bunch of spending. You look at China spending probably 10% this year. And then you look at the rest of the world doing the same, and the money printers are going burr, and you realize that you're nowhere close to it. So we have ways. I've got over a dozen now different indicators that I'm going to be using to kind of scream, hey, we've got greater risk, and this is why I'm dialing out. Usually what I find in cycles is that people will be saying the exact opposite to me when it's time to get out. I'll be talking about how, hey, this indicator triggered, this one indicator triggered, I've sold more of this, and they'll be like, dude, why are you selling? Blah, 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 said 1 million this cycle. Or haven't you heard of this new shit coin that you can make all this money on? And so it'll usually be the exact opposite. Like what people will be asking the exact opposite question. Why am I selling? Why would I sell now? So stupid. That's the kind of stuff that'll happen. So yeah, China. I said this isn't going well for China. Chinese investors are loading up on gold at a record pace. So why are Chinese investors loading up on gold at a record pace if things are well in China and their GDP is growing by 5%? It's because they destroyed their economy and they're dystopian as fuck. That's why. Why do they put kill switches in our solar? So that they can kill our grid, right? So, we're at war with this country. I hope people realize this. Also, I love Sangping. I love the posts on here. Now, tens of thousands of Chinese people are becoming homeless because they're blacklisted by the social credit system.
The Chinese government officially announced the plan to build up a nationally coordinated social credit system in 2014. Till February 2019, over 30 million people are named in a list of dishonest persons subject to enforcement by this court. They cannot go traveling by planes. They cannot go traveling by high-speed trains. They cannot go to luxury restaurants. They are unable to get an insurance, and they can't even rent a house. If trust is broken in one place, restrictions are imposed everywhere. This
is fucked up. This is like if you guys haven't watched that Black Mirror episode where they talk about a social credit system. Uh-oh. Looks like somebody's drilling. It might be a good time for me to bounce here even before the market opens. But this is a really bad situation that China has going on right now. So I mean, it's not good, guys. It's not good. You need to stay away from it. How is she not getting censored on that? Oh, she I don't even know if she's in China anymore. I mean, she has to worry about her life, not just censorship, but her life. You have to watch out for a lot of that. Alex Garcia, Jesse, sometimes you can get away with it. If you're speaking English, they don't necessarily interpret well and they don't necessarily find you. But she has to worry about her life. She could be killed for that. Alex Garcia, Jesse, SPY closing the gap at 570 then higher. Yeah, it could. Yeah, totally. This is a good day to fill some gaps. Tesla's down 4.16%. That had a gap too. Let me just pull that up real quick. So again, today's a good day to fill daily gaps. I don't know if we're going to fill this one though. It's pretty far down. If we did, it would probably take until later in the week. But there's a gap down here at 306. We don't have to close this gap though. And I think I posted something earlier about U.S. economic. I think I did from one of my buddies that showed how the SPY normally has a gap that does not fill, and when it has these big bounces, and so that could be the one happening right now. So I don't know if the Tesla gap has to fill. I wouldn't be waiting for stuff like that to buy the dip. I would be doing it sooner personally, because it doesn't have to. So I just wanted to point out this and why I'm so happy I live in America right now, guys. Egyptian people smuggler Ahmad Ramadan Mohammed Abed trafficked 4,000 migrants from Libya while living in taxpayer-funded housing in London. So again, in the UK, you've got this guy with a $12 million side hustle, probably collecting government subsidies while importing in 4,000 migrants to do the same thing and probably commit crime while they're here. This is just fucking insane. This is the kind of stuff that was happening in the United States. We don't live in that world anymore. God bless us. Also, I wanted you guys to hear this. This is the people in Poland start chanting Donald Trump when they were speaking about illegal aliens. This is amazing to me. And by the way, these guys crushed it in the election, or at least are in polling. And listen to this, though. Listen to this. Like, Trump isn't just like a person traveling around. He's like hope to these people.
Oppose illegal migration. We will stop the anti-American change in Europe.
Będziemy opierać się nielegalnej imigracji i będziemy opierać się antyamerykańskiej polityce w Europie.
Donald Trump! Donald Trump! Donald Trump! Donald Trump! Donald Trump!
It's just amazing to me to see what's happening. Also, Shamash said President Trump just co-opted Belt and Road 1.0 and created Belt and Road 2.0, except it's now all about Pax Americana. He said China has invested $200 billion into the region over 13 years to develop hard and soft power. America announced a $2+ trillion in 6 days of money that region will invest in us. Implications are many, but none of them will bring these countries closer to China. In fact, the opposite. So again, this is just like we're changing the world here. And again, Shay put this up. President Trump says UAE will invest in U.S. semiconductors as part of a $12 to $14 trillion incoming investments that will be shortly announced. It's just fucking nuts, guys. Like, there's so much going on. And then I love this too. Kash Patel announces he's shutting down the FBI headquarters in D.C. It's just a shitty place. Costs a bunch of money. It's not in good shape. They're shutting it down. They're going to build a new one, and they're going to move the bulk of the feds out to their local jurisdictions so that they can actually do work and not be bureaucratics trying to control the government. It's just all good stuff, guys. All good stuff. All right, so it's about 8:22. The market's going to open. I don't know if I'm going to stick around for it today, guys. Again, they're kind of doing construction at my house here, so I think I might bail. I'll be back for possibly Wednesday. I'll let you guys know. If there's anything that weird comes up, I'll probably do the market open. But otherwise, maybe Thursday, and then maybe not again until the next Tuesday. So definitely be around for Thursday and or Wednesday if I'm around, because you're not going to get much in between unless it's on X. But I want to thank you guys very much. Again, I think that Bitcoin, if you look in the bottom corner, I think we're finding support right now. It could even dip just even sub 100 or something for a minute. That could totally happen. I don't see it going lower. I think Josh Mandel is wrong, and I think people will see that. And when they see that, please mention my name. Mention my name. I am not a prophet, but I do look and try and weigh everything. And I think I do a lot better than most. So if you guys could, if you, over here, in the feed, if you guys could comment on the main thread, that would be great, and push people towards this, and then comment in this video. It's greatly appreciated. Otherwise, though, have a great day. And worst case, I'll see you Thursday. And make sure you have a good holiday too, guys. Peace out, and I will talk to you maybe Wednesday,